Now, the thing with when I was the last time I was a teacher, and I ended up letting some of my students follow me on Instagram once the school year wrapped. I know one of them used to post Andrew Tate all the time. Now, I agree with some things that he says, but a lot of it is rooted in, like, I agree with him too. And he one of them ones, like, a lot of stuff I agree with. Then there's some stuff he agree with. I'm like, I don't know. You took it too far. And like, what is that rooted in? You know what I mean? He did have a father, so we can't take that away from him. But I do know that a lot of it is rooted in pride. And that is the issue that's going around. There's a strong spirit of pride, and I feel like delusion. And I've learned recently, like in my studies and my reading, like in the Bible, when it talks about how God would turn them over to a reprobate mind and how they'll be turned over to their own delusion. And I think we see that in a lot of communities and theories in the world today, where, especially in the podcast space, where people are turned over to a reprobate mind. They're turned over to their own delusions and what they believe. And it's like people pick a part of the Bible and then they leave the other half. So, and kids are really following that. And so, you know, but just imagine young boys are following Andrew Tate, and then young women are following Sexyy Red. And when I say young, I don't mean like 22. I mean like 13, 14. So that's a hell of a mix. Imagine us, Andrew Tate, dating Sexyy Red. Imagine that. Imagine that. All right, let's move on to the next one. It says J Meds Internet podcast and mental, physical, and combined health. Okay, so it says how it affects men receiving content. According to JMed Internet Resolution, although podcasts are widely used to promote mental and physical well-being, the majority of health-related podcast formats remain untested and unregulated. This means men consuming motivational or advice content may adopt unverified or harmful narratives disguised as support. Without standards in podcast content, listeners risk internalizing misinformation and emotional misguidance. Now, the beauty of my podcast is I do my research and I do find real reputable sources. And I also have people who are the licensed professionals. So I don't want to be pushing out false information. And if I ever do, I want to correct it. I've said it, corrected myself before. I don't know where we are at now at the state of the world, but I do remember back in, what was it, 2019, I remember saying that schools offer financial, or offer you, colleges then offer free therapy through the school. And I had a person at the time, she reached out and was like, hey, I just want to let you know that was incorrect because my college doesn't do that. Now, that was 2019, and my college did when I was in college. But I know a lot of them do now. I don't know if all of them do because we've been through the pandemic and all types of stuff. So, but I don't know if they all do now, but I think a lot of them do now. It's usually in the fees. The third source talks about the rehabilitation and research and rural health. It says that how this affects the listeners. So according to this source, mental health podcasts may improve literacy and reduce stigma, but poor quality content or lack of nuance can mislead listeners. When men listen to unrefined or sensational takes, they're more likely to self-diagnose or avoid professional help. Accessibility is great, but without critical thinking and personal accountability, the medium becomes a distraction, not healing. Now, one thing we always promote, it's in my bio, this is not a replacement for therapy, but it can be a good start. We've had licensed professionals say that podcasts, especially ones that are geared towards that, can help to start, and books to start. But you shouldn't use that to just stay there. If you can, you should still go talk to somebody. Of course, people don't have the means, but even it was said on this podcast by a licensed professional that until you get the means, use the podcast and the books to just kind of help you coast through it. And of course, they don't always say it because they legally can't, but I can't really see God